Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're totally shattering a very pervasive modern illusion. We're taking direct aim at the myth of the AI neo-god. And by the time we wrap up, we're going to completely reclaim your rightful place as the sovereign pilot of the machine.
But before we get totally lost in the hardware, we have to stop and ask a really foundational question. You know that feeling right when you see an algorithm whip up an incredible image or write a massive block of complex code in just seconds? It naturally triggers a bit of existential dread. It makes us wonder, are human creators actually becoming obsolete? Or are we just fundamentally misunderstanding the tool we're holding? Like, is AI actually a true, conscious creator, or is it merely a digital scripter?
Here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll tackle the AI creator myth. Then, look at the von Neumann Babelfish, cross the semiotic bridge, learn how to battle algorithmic distortion, and finally, chart the rise of the algorithmic orchestrator. We are pulling back the curtain to reveal the true magic of human authorship.
Section 1. The AI creator myth, shattering the illusion of consciousness.
Okay, let's address that heavy existential dread you might be feeling. When an algorithm spits out a masterpiece in 10 seconds flat, it is so incredibly easy to assume there's a ghost in the machine. You know, some conscious, creative mind hard at work. But to shatter this illusion, we can turn to the philosopher Hannah Arendt, who draws a brilliant boundary between human and machine. She points out that true creation requires praxis. In everyday terms, that means real art requires, well, biological friction. It requires fighting your way through the messy maze of life, feeling actual joy, experiencing grief, and existing within a society. A machine built entirely out of cold silicon fundamentally lacks all of this. It doesn't have a burning inner drive to express a thought, simply because it has never lived a single day. Without that human context, a machine isn't creating, it's just sorting.
So, if it isn't actually a creator, what on earth is it? Cultural theorist Roland Barthes gives us the perfect term for this, a scripter. You see, an AI doesn't originate anything out of thin air. Instead, it acts as an incredibly sophisticated vessel, almost like a giant mental kaleidoscope. It blindly processes massive databases, it mimics patterns, and it recombines pre-existing human cultural data. It's performing a pure gesture of inscription, but that original creative spark, it's entirely missing. The algorithm doesn't know why a painting is beautiful, it just knows the statistical probability of where a pixel usually goes.
Section 2. The von Neumann Babelfish, the mechanical reality of AI.
We are dealing with a massive divide here between our minds and the hardware itself. On one side, we have human cognition, what we can call OS alpha. It's warm, it's fluid, it's highly associative, and beautifully messy. You can jump seamlessly from one abstract thought right to another. But on the exact opposite side, we have the computer's hardware, specifically the arithmetic logic unit, or ALU. And the ALU is incredibly cold, rigid, and strictly deterministic. It literally only does exactly what it's told to do using discrete electrical voltages. There's no nuance. There's absolutely no subtext. It is pure, unyielding math.
Because of this massive modality gap, AI basically operates as what we can call the von Neumann Babelfish. Just like that universal translator from classic sci-fi, generative AI is a tool purely designed to ingest one format, map it to a complex mathematical space, and then spit it out in a totally new format. It translates your English text prompt into Python code or pixel data, but it is translating entirely blind. It doesn't truly comprehend a single word of your intent. It's frankly kind of absurd to think about, but this incredibly advanced multi-billion parameter mathematical space still essentially has the conscious comprehension of a toaster. It is just an incredibly fast mechanical translator that totally lacks the capacity to actually get your jokes.
Section 3. Crossing the semiotic bridge, tricking rocks into thinking.
So how do we actually bridge that gap? How do we command that cold hardware without completely mistranslating your beautiful ideas? Well, we build what's called the divine script. This is strictly formatted text, think JSON, Python, or even a highly structured natural language prompt. It acts as the exact universal deterministic interface. Explicit, unabstracted text is quite literally the ultimate leverage you have over this deterministic machine. It's the only safe way to force the machine's hand and guarantee that your messy, associative human intent safely compiles into exact physical hardware execution. This is exactly why your prompts matter so much. You can't just throw vibes at the ALU. We are quite literally tricking rocks into thinking using lightning and text.
Chronologically, building this bridge happens in 3 strict steps. Step 1 starts as pure abstract human intent in your mind. This is OS alpha doing the dreaming. Step 2. That intent gets formalized into the divine script, translating your thoughts into a rigid, explicit structure. And finally, step 3, that text triggers exact physical ALU execution down in the silicon. This whole process proves that your abstract thought literally becomes physical electricity, but only when you actively steer it through explicit text commands.
Section 4. Battling Algorithmic Distortion, the Return of the Sweat.
But here's the catch. As you cross that semiotic bridge, you're going to encounter a major problem. Probabilistic AI systems aren't perfect. They absolutely love to guess, and they very often guess wrong. This creates what researchers call an automated miasma, or a fog of hallucinations. You simply cannot just passively sit back, watch the machine hallucinate, and accept its random distortion. You have to apply protortion. This is the proactive, painstaking physical and mental effort of your mind mapping its vision onto reality. It requires the literal sweat of the brow. Think about that acute frustration you feel when the AI gets a detail slightly wrong and you have to dig in, rewrite the prompt, or tweak the code yourself. That is protortion in action. You've got to roll up your sleeves, manually prune the text, and forcefully bend that deterministic scripter back toward your exact mandate.
Now, why is this effort so entirely necessary? 2 words: agentic torts. Tech developers intentionally design these complex systems with humans in the loop. But why? To act as a moral crumple zone. Just like the front of your car is designed to crush and absorb a physical impact to protect you in the cabin, you are positioned to absorb the legal and moral liability when an algorithm inevitably crashes into reality. Tech companies want you in the loop purely as a liability shield. If the system hallucinates bad data, if it violates copyright or breaks a law, the machine doesn't go to jail, you take the legal hit.
Because you absorb all the risk for the machine's actions, you must fiercely maintain all of the control over its outputs. Protecting your authorship is anything but a passive gig. It requires asserting explicit text intent, manually pruning the code when the AI guesses wrong, taking total legal ownership, and actively enforcing a moral mandate. Basically, if you're going to take the blame, you must take the wheel. You can never ever let the machine drive unattended.
Section 5. The Algorithmic Orchestrator. The evolution of the creator. By mastering this dynamic of text, control, and liability, we're completely redefining what it means to be an author in the modern digital age. Historically speaking, we're evolving way past that old 18th century myth of the solitary romantic genius. You know, the idea of someone just pulling brilliant original ideas out of thin air. For centuries, humans did the pure origination, manually rendering every single pixel or writing every single word. But today, we're shifting into a powerful new era of strategic management. We are officially becoming algorithmic orchestrators.
Under this new paradigm, we see a really clear division of labor. The AI scripter, the machine, it blindly translates tokens, it outputs statistical probabilities, and it executes the tedious technical rendering. But you, the human pilot, you provide the overarching rhetorical strategy. You inject the emotional resonance born from your lived experience. You hold the legal liability and the moral intent. So you're surrendering the tedious generation of syntax over to the machine, sure, but you are keeping 100% of the strategic and rhetorical control.
This means you, the human, are the undeniable painter. You are the sovereign pilot and the theological steward of the computer's hardware. The machine is totally blind without your mandate. It just sits there, waiting for your instruction. The actual soul, the magic, and the undeniable truth of the work belongs entirely to you. The AI is simply the brush.
So, as we wrap up this explainer and step into this wild new agentic era, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to chew on. We've completely stripped away the magic trick today to see the rigid von Neumann architecture and the reality of the Babelfish. So will you settle for acting as a mere moral crumple zone, passively absorbing the failures of an unpredictable machine? Or will you actively seize the divine script, cross that semiotic bridge, and architect the future yourself? The choice and the true magic of authorship is entirely yours. Keep creating, and I'll see you in the next explainer.